And then we come to this complicated wide receiver class. Alfredo, who are your top 5 wide receivers? I'm expecting we get a little bit of disagreement at this position.
Oh, we will, because I am still looking at this strictly on talent versus, because this is such it's going to be a very odd thing that we're going to see here. It's a very unique circumstance. So at 1, I've got Travis Hunter still. I think he is the best wide receiver in this class. We just have to find out, is he actually going to be a wide receiver at the NFL level? So I've got Travis Hunter at 1, Ted McMillan at 2, Luther Burden at 3, Matthew Golden at 4, and Emeka Egbuka at 5.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, mine a little bit different. Like you said, this is a really weird class, and like I'm going to give my top 5 here, and there's potentially a guy getting drafted in the first round that isn't inside my top 5. We don't really know how NFL teams are evaluating this tier, which makes it really tough. But I've still got Ted McMillan on top. You look at the size, speed, athleticism combo; it's really hard not to like him. Luther Burden, I know so much ado has been made about the manufactured touches, but I think that the ceiling outcome for Luther Burden is just so good that you can't pass up on him. Emeka Egbuka, a very similar player to Burden, going to play out of the slot, could draw a very high target share. That's alluring to me. Trey Harris is a guy that I've really been holding the torch for. I think that he is just such a polished and NFL ready wide receiver. And then I've got Travis Hunter at wide receiver 5, but I feel like talking about the top guys without throwing Matthew Golden in there, who's now getting first round buzz after a great combine, is really tough. So I want to sneak him in there, but it's just hard to move anybody else outside of the top 5.
So I think that we should definitely spend a minute or two on Matthew Golden, because that was one of the first things I noticed when I opened up the Footballguys draft guide. I think in his consensus rankings, you guys had him at wide receiver 3, and that was before he ran the fastest time at the combine. Dave, you mentioned some of the rumors that came out of the combine, and one of those was that Golden could be the first wide receiver taken in the NFL draft. Does he have a chance to be the first wide receiver taken in rookie drafts?
I think that people are going to defer pretty heavily to NFL draft capital by the time rookie draft season rolls around, and it's impossible to ignore the buzz. But like you said, there's going to be a lot of disagreements here because nobody really knows what's happened. I've heard some people say Ted McMillan is going to be a top 5 pick. Other people have him at the end of round 1. Matthew Golden is a guy who was, a projected day 2 pick who is now looking like he could be the first wide receiver off the board. We've got Travis Hunter, don't really know what to do with him. So I think that people are going to end up defaulting to NFL draft capital. If a team invests a top 10 pick in Matthew Golden and another wide receiver doesn't go off the board inside the top 15, I think that Golden becomes the unanimous wide receiver 1. It really just depends on what NFL teams are going to prefer, because all of these guys have such different profiles as well, which really makes the conversation fun.
Alfredo, I've got Ted McMillan right now as my number 1 wide receiver because I'm factoring in the Travis Hunter risk maybe a little bit more, and we can talk about that in a second. But the one thing that bothers me a little bit about McMillan, you maybe just take this fear away from me, is if I'm looking for the guy when they're all just standing up in the room that looks like the most recent busts at the position, especially in the first round, it's the guy that's 6'5", 212, right? It seems like the smaller guys are the guys who have maybe overperformed our expectations, and the guys that look more like him are the guys who have busted. Do you see any bust risk here?
I mean, it's a horrible cop-out answer, but there is with every single player. I think that if there is going to be a bust potential for Ted McMillan, it's that he's not the best separator, but we said a lot of the exact same things about Drake London coming out of USC, right. And he's a very similar prospect profile here. He's highly productive, a target monster, tall guy that uses his wingspan to create a huge catch radius and create separation at the top of his stem. He's not going to be a burner deep, but he is going to be good enough that he can manipulate in his routes to create the separation needed. He just doesn't do it consistently. Being as tall as he is around that height, it's hard for him to change levels. And when I say that, I mean like drop your hips and be able to change directions. So he's not going to be like Luther Burden and Matthew Golden and a bunch of these other really quick guys that are going to be open every single play. He may not look open on every play, but he's going to be able to come down with the contested catches and have the big catch radius. So the possibility of him being a bust, I mean, sure, he ends up going to, let's say, the New Orleans Saints or something like that, and then he's got to compete for targets with Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, and then hope that Derek Carr is going to be accurate and be on a team that's rebuilding for a long time. Yeah, it could absolutely happen that way, but he could also end up in Carolina and be the number one target for Bryce Young and be a guy that's getting, the Mike Evans role in the Dave Canales offense. So like there's a lot of back and forth with Tet. I do think that overall he is a pretty safe prospect with a good floor.
Dave, we heard Alfredo say that he thought that Travis Hunter is the best wide receiver in this class. We just don't know if he's going to play wide receiver. I feel like going into the NFL draft, he has at any position the widest range of potential outcomes. How high, like if he's a full-time corner, then we're not even drafting him in the first 2 rounds. Maybe we draft him in round 3 just as a flyer because you hope that he's going to play wide receiver in the future. How high could you see Hunter drafted though? If he gets drafted and the team comes out on draft night and says, we see him as a full-time wide receiver.
Yeah, I think if a team comes out and really says that, if it's a team that doesn't have a lot of target competition and they say they draft him to be a wide receiver, I think he probably deserves to go top 5 in rookie drafts. But right now with the uncertainty, I think it makes sense to kind of wait until the top or the middle of round 2 to take Travis Hunter. I'll go back to the adage we've been hearing about fantasy football forever, right? You can't you can't win your fantasy league at the top of your draft, but you can lose it there. And I think that's why people are scared of Travis Hunter, because you could draft a guy who potentially is only getting 8 to 12 offensive snaps per game. And that, offensive workload could vary on a week-to-week basis. So I think right now there is a lot of risk with Travis Hunter. The unknown has scared people away. But I think that once he gets drafted, probably within the top 5, and you look at all of those teams in the top 5, most of them do have pretty clear paths to being a wide receiver 1 there. I think then we'll warm up on him a little bit, but I think the unknown right now is why he is, deservedly getting pushed down in rookie drafts a bit.
Alfredo, I'm trying to garner support for a movement that I'm starting. I play in some IDP Dynasty leagues as well. I love the IDP format, even if not enough people play it for there to be a lot of content produced about it. But I really want for everybody to agree that if you're in an IDP league, we're going to have a setting that we're counting his cornerback stats. We're counting his wide receiver stats.
Love it.
You get the points for everything, and he's the number 1 pick.
Yeah. I love it. You just make it like baseball
of football.
Yeah. Call it a utility player.
I don't know if you guys played fantasy baseball back when that happened, but there was a huge debate and multiple sites choosing different paths, whether you create a hitter Shohei and a pitcher Shohei, or whether you only count, you have to choose whether you start him as a hitter or a pitcher. Like, it was really controversial. And I'd like to get ahead of this controversy and let's just give him all the points for all the things he does.
That's what I think we should do. I think the one other bit of risk in Travis Hunter that I think even post-draft you still might want to keep in the back of your mind. Let's just say hypothetically, whatever team drafts him, let's say New England takes him at 4 and Vrabel comes out and says that he is going to be our wide receiver 1. Then let's say Vrabel gets fired for whatever reason. There's constantly churn in front offices, and then a new coach comes in and says, we actually want this guy to be cornerback. So even if we do get that wide receiver sticker after the draft, there's no guarantee that he's still going to be a wide receiver 2 or 5 years from now. So I think there's always going to be that little bit of concern with Travis Hunter.
We do have a Travis Hunter question from the chat. Doak says, where does he go in IDP leagues? My league has 4 defensive spots in our starting lineup. That's not very many.
Right.
And if he's only a cornerback, then I'm not really very excited at all. It doesn't really move me, because corner is about the least impactful position when it comes to scoring, unless you're just in a league that only counts like sacks, picks, and touchdowns, and then he's going to maybe be more valuable. But if you can get your league to agree that you get points for his receiving production as well, then the answer, Doak, is that he goes number 1 overall. So we're going to take our second break. Then we're going to get to the tight ends. Then we'll get to a couple of sleepers from these guys. And then we do have a little bit of time to answer some of the questions from the chat. So if you have rookie-specific questions, especially if you can kind of dig a little bit deeper, make these guys answer some hard questions. No, I'm just joking. But like, who do you want to know about? Put it in the chat. We'll try to talk to them after the break.